Hello and welcome back to what is the second part of my embankment build at Woodhill Park, up in my loft on my 1980s layout. I finally got to do it and finish off the embankment, so if you're watching this I'm probably about halfway through, and this is the rest of it really, so enjoy. I have been having a bit of trouble filming some of this as the microphone keeps picking up noise from the LED lighting and such, and if I've got the power cable connected to the camera, so I have had the odd problem that I've had to keep some of the footage, as it's not how do you say, it's not easy to reproduce again, because I was doing the actual modelling at the time. And the example is when I show you how I convert the bridge, so I've had to play around with the sound to try and lose some of the humming in the background, because it's like an earth feed I keep getting, and it doesn't happen every time, but I think it's due to the LED lighting, and if I put a power lead into the camera and forget that it's in there and use the microphone. So apologies for some of the sound. It is a pain and I'm trying to work out what's causing it, and I think I've pretty much got an idea now, and it shouldn't happen again. One of the first things I had to do before carrying on with the embankment was to increase the height of the bridge, as the bridge is too short really to match up with the upper section. And I went about this by finding something that would match the brickwork on the stone bridge, and this is what I've done. The bottom three courses are an addition to the bridge, and I think they come out pretty well. And coming up is how I achieved it. So I've glued on the extra pieces that I pinched off this old knock arch, and they're pretty much dry now. It's 5-minute epoxy I use
2-part epoxy, and you have to hold it for a while, especially if it's slightly bowed like this bit was, but eventually it goes off, and it goes off very well, really strong. So that side is pretty much taken care of. I need to do the end of the wall here, finish it off with a little bit of loose brickwork somewhere I can find, but sadly the bit I had wasn't long enough, so I've just chose one side that will probably get buried into the hillside. I'll probably finish it off with a bit of odd brickwork here, but it won't match. So as it goes into the hillside, the beauty of making scenic stuff is that you can lose it with a bush or a tree or just general scenic stuff as it melts into the hillside. So this part will sort of get lost really, but the side which will be more prominent, this side, hopefully won't be too bad. It'll blend in better than what it was going to if I just had it sitting on top of the soil, which would have looked silly because the bricks would have gone down to meet the ballast. So a bit of covering up, a bit of playing about, but that's the beauty of playing about with scenery really. Just notice this one's not forward enough, so because it's still relatively soft, you can move it a little bit, and it only wants to move a fraction. Not bad. Once I paint that the same colour, weather it, and there's ballast around it, another undergrowth, hopefully that will just melt into the bridge. But that was the only way I could think of doing it, because getting hold of stuff that matches, for one, it's expensive if you can get hold of it. Not do a wall-in that's quite expensive you can get through Gauge Master, the foam stuff, but even that wouldn't match. And to be honest, it's a moment to make do amend with a load of old rubbish really, but that's the beauty of modelling, is to play about like this. So once it's painted, hopefully it will look as one. Got a bit more to do to it.
and finished the initial sculpt mould. I don't think I'm going to add any more. I've got to do something with this corner long term, but the embankment is pretty much finished, and the next stage is to paint it, but I'll leave this to dry overnight as it's New Year's Eve, and I'm off to friends to have a nice drink and see the new year in. But it's come out quite good, quite pleased with it, and the bridge sits quite nice in the landscape. It looks quite comfortable, nestled into the embankment either side, and the extra bricks I put on there blend in pretty well. And once I add ballast along the bottom of the bricks, you won't even notice that was a join, and a touch more weathering if necessary. And the bridge sort of goes somewhere now. So that's it for now. Happy New Year. I thought I was finished painting, that is, but I had another look at the bridge. The land before the bridge didn't look quite right, as the bit leading up to the bridge just sort of fell off a precipice and just didn't look right, being as it's entering more of a cutting after the bridge. The landscape had to sort of rise up to look right, so I've revisited it and added a bit more sculpt mould on and a bit more foam to rise up the landscape near the bridge. So hopefully it's going to look better. But it was worth revisiting, I think. Now I've got to wait for that to dry and then paint this bit. But it's not much of a hold up really. I'm sure it'll look better though for doing this. that's it for today. I'll just leave that to dry now. I've carefully taken the tape up so any liquids that are on the tape don't drain through it overnight and affect the track. So just get rid of the tape as soon as possible, and all the tracks are now clean again. So I just wiped them with the liquid cleaner I use, and well, I can run the trains really. As long as I don't touch it, it'll be fine, and hopefully it'll dry. In this weather it's going to take some time though. I may be able to add some static grass, but I might have to leave it to dry for a longer period, as even though the temperatures are milder up here today and possibly for the rest of the week, it's still not that warm, so it will take some time to dry, especially the plaster underneath. Right, it's nearly time to do some static grass application. I'll be doing it in clumps and sort of gradually building up a sort of layering on the embankments. It's finally dry. It took a few days to dry, but I suppose it's not even dry deep underneath, but it's dry enough to do static grass. And on the left hand side over here I've added a bit more land area as well, just so it can be the end of a farmer's field and fence in just at the top of the embankment, just to add a bit more interest to the embankment. So I'm now going to get on with the static grass. It's best to try and protect your layout while you're doing this for a couple of reasons really. One, you want to save what you don't use of the static grass, and the other is, being static grass, it sticks to everything, and you think you've got it up, and it travels a long way, and it can end up going in your locos and just generally sticking to anything as it's static, and it will stick to anything oily, greasy or whatever, and just add to the mess that you might have, you know, on your track. So it's always worth doing a bit of work just to protect around the area where you're going to do some static grass. The combination of grasses I'm going to use is one's from Mini Nature and it's called Late Summer, and another one what I buy on eBay which is called Moss Green, which is quite a lime green, and the two mixing together gives a reasonable sort of highlighted effect. I'm going to start by going along the top of the embankment on the left, as I want quite sort of rich grass bordering the track, and I'll then continue to work on other areas. Well, I sucked up quite a bit in the end, so it's worth saving it if you can. It does get a bit mixed up, but then you can use it in random places rather than when you're trying to use specific sort of colouring. I'm now going to do this area, which will be like the end of a field butting up to the embankment, with more of a sort of lush green that depicts that the field is being cultivated, and it's a mixture of some sort of brighter summer greens and other lighter colours, just to give an interesting effect. This is by no means finished. You can add different clumps and tints to it and play around with it. Yeah, even remove some of it and add sort of bald patches here and there. Or where, you know, a tractor might have gone through the field, some tracks or whatever. But it's a base, you might say. Right, I'm building up the foliage at the moment, so it's time to get some bushes going here. To do the undergrowth on the embankment, I use these items. I used these in a previous video called my big embankment project, and you can look back in my history of films and you'll find this. And that was my previous attempt, and this is me using this again to finish the other bit of embankment, even though I think the colours are slightly different, but the bridge, breaking that up, will look quite good. I need to get some sea foam. I'm out of sea foam, and I need to get some more lacquer and polyfibre. It's funny when you think you've got enough and you run out, but I just need to pick them up and then I can finish the other side of the embankment. Right, I'm just focusing on my new loco and going to walk you over to show you what I've completed on the embankment. It's nearly completed. At this stage I'm still waiting on a few more bits of scenery or materials to make the scenery, but I'll walk you over there and you can see how it's looking at this point. I've now put fencing on top of the bridge as I was proposing to do, and starting to create a little scene. The scene is a yard on top that's being used to store stuff by the maintenance guys which work at the TMD, and they've noticed that a guy's broken in, and I don't know what he's doing, whether he was proposing to jump off the bridge, throw bricks at the trains or steal something, but they've caught him and they've called the police, and the police have attended and they're all thrashing it out there, arguing who's done what. And that's the little scene on the bridge at the moment, the bridge that goes to nowhere. And as I've mentioned in the previous part of the video, I managed to extend the bridge, which has come out pretty well. I've got to add ballast at the base of the brickwork or stonework just to blend it in, and cable trunking. The cable trunking needs to carry on, it ends here and needs to go on under the bridge and be blended in. But over the other side, the embankment is pretty much finished. I'm wondering whether to add sea foam or not bother, just to make it a bit different over this side. Maybe there's less sort of bracken and undergrowth and more just low bushes like heather. On this side of the embankment I will be adding some more bushes, but I'm still waiting for some material. And as I said in my previous update, or my Christmas update, I was going to turn this into a farmer's field, and that's exactly what I've done. A farmer's field incorporates sort of a muddy end corner of the field where there's a horse and a trough, and one of the guys from the maintenance area sort of chatting to the horse, and in the field is the farmer looking over to the other side of the embankment with his dog. I don't know whether he's a shepherd or he's just a dairy farmer, but he's got a dog, and I'm going to work on this field and maybe add some more detail to it. But this field now looks over the bridge and the TMD in the distance. So the scene is coming together how I sort of envisaged it, really. I think it's really starting to take shape, but most of the landscaping is done now. I did mention on my community page that I was going to go to Brentwood Toy Fair and look to see if I could find any more bargains, as I'm always scouting around for bits and pieces and bargains. And sure enough, a guy was selling 8 of these HAA wagons, and I was looking for about another 5 for my rake, as I said previously, but 23 will be even better. And these are the coal sector, so I'm thinking of just mixing them up a bit. They need weathering, but they were brand new, and he was selling them for £8 each, and I got a deal with him and managed to get 8 of them for £48. As I say, they're new. They are the railroad edition, so they haven't got spring buffers and all the bells and whistles, but at the end of the day I'm suffering with a noisy dog barking in the background, so you have to excuse a dog. It's not mine, it's a neighbour's. Anyway, I'll carry on, hopefully it'll shut up. But he hasn't got no sprung buffers. I don't see the point of sprung buffers anyway, because they don't even meet normally anyway with the couplings between them. So what are they for? Alright, the buffers on these are probably not sort of to scale. They're not, they should be a bit bigger, because they're, I think, the original moulds for the Hornbys, but they're the same as what I've already got on the layout. And to be honest, why do I want to buy any sort of flash ones for, you know, 20 quid, 25 quid each, when you can pick these up, especially like this. So they'll need weathering, and I'll need to put coal inside them, but that's not a problem. And once I mix them up with the rake I've already got, they should blend in really nicely. So getting these for £6 each, I think that was a real steal. Excellent buy. And you can get anything close to this if you bought it on that auction site we all know. You just sitting up spending a fortune. So, as I always say, toy fairs are your best bet if you want to save a bit of money and get some bargains. I also got a few other bits and pieces which I'll show you in a minute. I forgot to say, I've had a look at them and they've all got metal wheels as well. So even though they are the old mouldings and such, and not fully detailed like some of the better ones these days, they've got metal wheels, so I don't have to update the wheels. I will be updating the couplings at some point though. As I've said, with the other ones they're a bit of a pain because they're massive, and it does make you wonder why Hornby keeps producing these with great big couplings instead of nim pockets. Even the railroad should have nim pockets these days. It's so strange that they don't update them. I'm sure it's coming soon because it's getting a bit laughable, isn't it? Anyway, the dog's off again. That's it. The other bargains I got were some ballast. I mean, it's in an old pack, but it's wooden Scenics ballast for £1, and some other scatter that I can make flowers out of. Woodland Scenics, I think. It's only £1 each, and a bit of walling that probably would have helped me with the bridge. Should have had it already, but I had to make do with something else, which has worked fine. But I see this, and yeah, it's worth picking up. So for another project, that'll be handy. I also picked up this Land Rover because I thought a Land Rover to go with the scene with the farmer and his dog on the hillside in front of the embankment and the bridge would go really well, as he probably would have come up here in something like a Land Rover rather than walk, and would have just been taking care of the horse. I weathered up the Land Rover already and made it look nice and muddy, and I think that doesn't look a bad scene, especially with the old railway wagon there with no wheels on. Used to see loads of them around, being used for horse boxes and whatever. Right, I've put them on the train, and the HAAs are now being pulled by the 58. They're great for the money. I've just got to weather them and put some coal in them and deal with the couplings. But, you know, for the money, they were excellent. I did talk to the guy, and he said, are they going on my channel? Because he noticed my t-shirt while I was buying them, and I said they'll be on my channel before you know it, as I've been looking for some of these. So you don't always get these sort of bargains. You know, sometimes you go to toy fairs and you don't always get what you want. I know at auction site you'll pretty much find what you want, but you're going to pay for it. You won't get nothing like this on there, but you will at toy fairs, and if you're lucky you'll get exactly what you want. So I'm extremely pleased with this, and I can't promote toy fairs enough. It's a brilliant place to pick up bits and pieces, especially building parts and things like the bridge that this feature's all about, because that's where I bought the bridge from, a toy fair. Nobody knows what even make it is, or where it's come from, and it's probably been made by a private person in like the 1960s or 70s, but it's brilliant, and I think that cost me a couple of pounds, and now it's sitting in my layout looking like it does. So my advice is go to the toy fairs. That's just about it for this update. I've now finished virtually everything I wanted to in this area. I've got a bit of cable trunking to do and a little bit of ballasting, but I'll do that in time. But now everything is complete, and I'm really happy how it's come out. I personally think this part of the embankment is better than the previous part, and it starts you thinking again. Like most of the layout, as soon as you do something that's improved something, you start thinking about going over what you just done. But I must resist it. But I do actually think this part I've just finished looks actually better than the previous embankment. What do you think? Do you think the same? I'm actually thinking of at least going back and enhancing it with some sort of coloured scatter at least. But it's amazing how you sort of progress, really. But that's modelling. It's great. I guess you are your own worst critic, really, because I keep looking at things thinking I can do better, and that and this channel spurs me on, really, to keep improving my skills. I'll say bye, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers, bye.